Giadich Colleen.
Dios muerde tamale, J Martatu.
Tá go mai agus tú hain.
Tommy Gamoy, Neil Calorum.
San Ishan seo is mór an honor a bheith ag caint le Colleen Snyder, scríbhneoir Gaeilge atá insi, agus tá a scéal cho sprágúil. I rith na pandéma a thosaigh si ag scríú leor faoin athacht mar tá Fathacht orthaí féin, ach ní raibh a lean eolais aici a saoil ar fad, mar sin thuaigh si a montaide a rith na pandéma, ach thosaigh si ag foghlaim na Gaeilge fásta mar gheall sin, so tá a scéal aonanta simú. Tá leor leite agam, níl sé agam faoi láthair mar tá mé ag taisteal, ach léime an leor I níos lú na caiiciis, agus sin go mbeidh dúsa mar ní léim go gasta. Bhuaim mé soltmhór as an leor tá a scéal dáthráidse agus scéal na níní eile a bhíonn ag strachailt leis an athacht. Tá an nasc sa chur síos dá leor agus dá siomh idirlín, ach in seoí Colleen níos mó dúin faoin na leor, faoin na scéal, faoin na saoil mar Ghaeilge ar Connacht inis. Mana bhacha sibh an fís an dearannach, tá mirt agam inis. Cad is bríle mirt, mar ní hílam go dig an ahan duine. Gansaithe, copáin, tí léinse, rudí eile, a chruthú mé héin agus mo chara Brianna. Tá an nasc sa chur síos agus tá am agah go fáil má tá se bheith smuintiú ar brontanas nálag a thuirt de rinne, ná brontanas a cheannach de chain, a sin é fuamsa, Jan Copanthe de chain agus ar Island leis an Ishan.
Gur míle maigad as a bheith lom enoch. Bhaith le tú hain a chur in aithne.
Is Misha Colleen, is as America me Tommy Mahoney in Linden, Virginia. Sna Slíbja Appalachia. Rogu agus Togu me in Aghaidh, Washington, D.C. Is Bralam Chianter is Flintua. Ta blahana fia galore and tashe go Holland on show. Hanig mohinsher a huj alu. Oh, Elon Whale, Iconti Cheer Owen, go Baltimore, Maryland, Magurkus Linyandol. Tommy Egianu Stodger Air, Nagalig Tree Blian, Air Linya, you know, Gakla Air Linya, Marhempla Le Tussa, Ghaeilge Mokri, August Patreon, August Turi. Reduce, Thurme Rang Air Linya, Le Gael School O'Neill, in Elon Whale. Ta an Skol Temple Ya Milla on Ach Arogoni a Air Mohinsher.
Fuair tú an rang sin ar líne, tá sé do chréidse mar níl an rangan mar sin ar fáil ar líne. So rang le Gael School in Ilan Ghoul or
More pandemic. I was lucky that
an táhairt. Hasí tú rang in a Gaeilge ar líne a rith na pandéma, ach hasí tú ag scríú leor fásta.
Bhí mé ag fólam na Gaeilge agus tá mé ag fólam na Gaeilge anois mar mo leabhar. I'll have to sort of switch to English here, you know, to really talk about the book. But, you know, this book is about how I found myself searching for the genetic giants of Northern Ireland. I needed to have the pronunciation. And so Hosime ag fáil Gaeilge, you know, only pronunciation, ta gra agam, a Gaeilge. What started me was my own medical condition. Gigantism or acromegaly, which is caused by a pituitary tumor that causes excess growth hormone. During my whole adolescence, which all of us so fondly remember our adolescence and our hormones at that time, well, you can imagine having this disruption, you know, the pituitary gland controls all your hormones in some way, and then having excess growth hormones. So, you know, it was a really challenging adolescence. I was much taller. My sister's 5'2", and I was 6 feet tall. And so, you know, I looked very different than my family with the red hair. Now I'm 6 feet tall in a family that's 5'2", 5'6". I think my dad was the tallest. And so, and also my facial features really started to change. That's a hallmark of it. Is you get a very different looking face. You get a very long, it really affects what you look like. I was losing my vision. It causes your vision to narrow in because the pituitary gland has the optic nerve goes right over it. So the tumor pushes up and you lose your vision. Splitting headaches. I just remember that. So it was very isolating. I'd had it since I was 8. I wasn't diagnosed until I was 20.
One of the things that stood out to me in the book was why me?
Mm-hmm.
You went your whole life not knowing why you had this condition and nobody else around in your family.
Because nobody else around me in my family that I knew actually had anything like this. And so, it's a genetic mutation that causes this, is what I found out, in the writing of the book. I mean, that's what I found out. My great-great-grandfather is the one that came over. He was 11 years old, and he came over in 1861, and he obviously brought the gene with him. Okay, so it went through his child, okay, my grandmother, my mother, and then me. So it went through 4 generations before it hit me. There's a specific genetic mutation in this area that Professor Mark Corbinitz found between the Spirin Mountains and Loch Ness. I didn't meet anybody that had this disease until I wrote this book. I mean, that's part of what happened with this book was I was finally able to meet my co-author, Brendan Holland, who lives in Dungannon, that lives in Ireland, in this area. For the first time, meeting someone that shared this disease, it was very emotional for me when I first met him. This Irish accent comes over the phone. We connected on the phone, and we probably talked for 2 hours because we were able to. I was diagnosed when I was 20, and he was as well. Our stories were very different. Mine was I grew up, as I mentioned, around the D.C. area. I lived in Maryland, and then I worked in D.C. and kind of that whole Washington D.C., Virginia, Maryland area. And so I was suburban, urban, and then Brendan, he lived in the country in Dungannon, and he has this wonderful thing he says about remembering going out for the cutting of the hay and the bringing in the whatever, and he has these really strong, very rural memories, and he talks about the clan, the 3. Apparently there was, if I remember correctly, there were 3 sort of groups of Hollands, and how they would walk together to Mass on Sunday. And so he has this very rich, what you imagine of this very traditional Irish upbringing, and being very, wrapped in the sort of loving arms of this community that he lived in. And I had nothing like that.
I do remember you mentioning one time that there was like this pride in your Irish heritage.
Yeah. It's not, I was born, I was born Mary Colleen. And I looked very like stereotypical Irish. I had, oh my gosh, little Colleen, little freckles, fair skin. I had red hair. I was the only one in my family that had red hair. And I mean, my extended family as well.
Wow.
And so, other than one cousin, and everybody else was, had brown hair like my sister and was quite short. And so I remember putting little shamrocks when I would write my name, I'd put a little shamrock above it. But, being Irish American here, it's just very limited. It's green beer, it's shamrocks, it's leprechauns, it's, things like that. And it's not really, especially with the north of Ireland, which has a very different set of symbols around it. It's red, it's giant, it's big. It's that wonderful story of the Red Hand of Ulster, of the warriors waiting to, like trying to get to land. They tell each other, whoever touches land first will get to be the ruler of this land. And one of them that's, busily paddling, he thinks, oh, I'm too far behind. He reaches up and cuts his hand off and throws it. To the earth there, and he touches it first, and he gets to be, the person. I mean, how badass is that, right?
Yeah.
And I really didn't know very much about my family at all. My mother, she even talked about it. She tried to talk to what would be her aunts, her great aunts. So that would be the children of the guy that came over. Okay, so this is his children. And she remembers he had 8 children, and she would try and talk to Aunt Sarah and Aunt Mary and ask them, and they wouldn't talk about it. It was a dark time. We don't talk about those things. So that's another way that Irish Americans are cut off from their heritage, is that it's a little bit shameful, I think that there's some shame that's carried down of we had to leave. And also you read about, I can't remember the landmark, but it's the bridge that people would walk over in Ireland. And I think there's not just one, but where they would come to this area and it was the place that you said goodbye.
Droichead
And
na
then,
Nua. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then the person would go off and they were lost. They would never come back again.
Yeah, it was
And
like a funeral.
probably
It was like a funeral,
it was
and I
like
think
a funeral. My ancestor came over, and he did come with his siblings, but he left his parents behind. I think about Catherine Gervin McGurk. I think about that mother because I'm a mother. I have 3 kids. How it was like for her to wave goodbye to all her children,
yeah,
crossed that bridge and went to the United States, never to see their mother again. She would never see her 11-year-old son. I know, it gives me chills, it makes me want to cry. They went in 1861, which is right before the American Civil War. So
yeah.
what they walked into in Baltimore, which is Maryland, which is above the Mason-Dixon line, it's right at the level, right at the border of the major conflict was between Maryland and Virginia. And to think about the world that they went into.
I was growing up, I heard the stories about like Finn McCool and like Giants Causeway. We just know those stories and we don't question, wait, why are there so many giants?
So many giants. Yeah. Why are they?
Giants.
One of the bits of research I did was there's a wonderful website that's placenames dot it's .ie, and it's all the different place names, which there's all kinds of wonderful place names in Ireland, all kinds of body parts and all kinds. I put in giant, and there were four. I think don't quote me on the number, but I think it was 47 giants' graves came up.
Yeah.
22 of them are in that tiny area where my ancestors came from and where that gene mutation came from. When they discovered this genetic mutation, that's this Northern Ireland version, and they gathered the people that they knew had it, they were able to give that data to a computational mathematician who could look at it and say, oh, how many generations back did this original gene mutation happen? Somebody way in the past, we don't know who or when, had the spontaneous genetic mutation. How long do we think that happened? And so they do their computations and they go back. It was about 2,500 years ago. Okay, so when were the Fenian warriors? When was Finn McCool? 2,500 years ago. Charles Byrne, he's a famous 18th century giant who came from this exact area between the Spirit Mountains and Lough Neagh. And so she put together all these living people are coming to me. Now, the reason they're coming to her is because it's Northern Ireland, and anyone that has an unusual disease winds up going to London because of the way the health service works. She started to notice that, and she put together that skeleton she saw hanging in the Hunterian Museum. I wonder, maybe we should test him for the genetic mutation. Mm-hmm. And so that's what happened. She tested Charles Byrne's teeth. She had all this, stuff.
That was a struggle too to get that. Like, it's amazing to me, just everything that came together.
Oh, it's so much serendipity. Yeah.
It's like a massive jigsaw. You were all.
It is. Yeah. And so
you played your part. Like, she was, a huge part of it. What just her commitment to it. So
yeah, she was so fascinated by it. I always want to make sure I give full credit to the people that helped me, because there were so many people. This is what I mentioned in the beginning. So many people that helped me along the way. First of all was Brendan, who has an encyclopedic knowledge of that area. And so he was steering me to people to talk to and helping me to get the research done. Professor Marta Corbinitz, this eminent endocrinologist in London. And then the other person that helped me along the way was Dr. Lowry in Belfast, which he'd be, oh, no, I wasn't much help, but he explained the science to me. And really helped me to understand, because, there's a lot of science in this book, but it was a real task for me to explain it in a fashion that we all could understand.
Yes, thank you. Oh my good, Ashin.
That was a lot on me, doing a lot of research, but pulling from these resources, like I mentioned, to get these stories. And I'm incredibly indebted to all these people that allowed me to interview them. They really opened up about their challenges, what happened to them, just everything that is deeply personal to talk about your infertility. It's deeply personal to talk about, which is an example of one of the people in the book. It's deeply personal to talk about what it's like to, have differences in your body that call attention to you, and talk about how people give you the side eye or make fun of you, or how you feel walking through the world with a body that's different than everyone else's.
It's something that people struggle with physically, but also mentally. And, it's Michael and Lord Fwy Fjordlanche, Cumhail. That's something I touch on sometimes, mental health.
For him, it was very physical.
Yeah.
For him, he wasn't able to play. He loves Gaelic football. He talks about this all the time. He follows it all now. But what a loss it was for him to not be able to play, because it had impacted his skeleton and his stamina so much. And he had been really good at it. And then by the time he was growing taller and taller, and he did not go through puberty actually until after he was treated. And so here he was very tall, but fatigued easily, wasn't as coordinated. Again, what's going on with my body? Why can't I do this thing that I love so deeply? Me, I was much more impacted psychologically by what is wrong with me? What is wrong with my body? A lot of, am I female? I had a lot of questioning about my own gender. It's good to be a tall man. It is not good to be a tall woman, especially when you're, in eighth grade, if you're, 15 and you're towering over all the boys in your class. It's not good.
You felt isolated, and you found Brendan and Professor Corbonus, and now your hope with this book is to find other people who might be struggling. But I think it's even just a great book for people to read. I could connect with it in my own way, and I think that other people will too, who maybe have a rare disease or just anything where they felt isolated.
Because nuair dus bhuaila mé lá Mali is dúirt tú níl tú I d'fhínear.
Neil.
Níl tú I d'fhínear. And that just so resonated with me. It was ar dúirt tú faoi ag fólam Gaeilge ach tá sé tábhachtach fósta cuimhin an sin méar sláinte, in general. I mean, this really applies. And you just ache to find other people. You just ache to find others who understand. And that can be whether it's a rare disease or maybe, people in the queer community. I think about them a lot, as they have differences in their lives and in their bodies that they want to, to find others that understand. And, so anyway, so this is not just about rare disease. This is about living in the world and meeting challenges that come your way. And how do you move forward with, like Duhlan, heal,
resilience. That's what I like, the stories that you shared, yourself included, just so resilient.
I am the first person in the United States, but there's other people here. And if there's anyone I could find that I could give them what was given to me, that feeling of finding someone else, and finding someone else that can really understand, that I could talk 2 hours to, like Brendan did with me, and find those other people. Now I've heard recently there is another family that's been found now. So I haven't been able to connect with them. Maybe I will one day, as I put it out there, because it goes through a researcher and they can't just give you the name. But you can say, I would be open to talk to that person because, that's something that's the real purpose of this book. As Northern Ireland giants, because of immigration patterns, have gone out into the world. I'm in the United States. There's a story of one that's in Scotland. There's people in England. There's, they're all around the world, we know now, because it would be wherever the immigration patterns would have taken people from County Tyrone out into the world.
Lán tú a rá ag fólam na Gaeilge, so hosí tú ag fólam don umniu for the pronunciation ach anéis. Tá tú gafa leis an Gaeilge. You're obsessed with Irish inis.
Yeah, Nish, yeah. So Tommy Goffey, le Gaeilge, oh my gosh, I keep taking classes, classes.
Yeah.
So,
You might have a
yeah,
problem, Colleen,
I know. I've developed a kind of addiction here, I guess, but I know, and it's Tasha crack culture, and, especially because, see, go harahe, Tashe, Chenga, Marv, people think it's Marv, and I'm like, Neil
Mhm.
Shay Marv, Neil Shay.
Oh, no.
Oh my gosh, Gail talk Linya,
Yeah, that's
yeah, BO, vibrant BO is just incredible. And there's so much to learn,
yeah.
that's beyond just like putting words together, it's that's the thing I'm enjoying, because a couple of the things I pulled out were the shonacles. When you start, oh boy, you got to learn your shonacles. And, and at first I was like, shonacles, what is it? The one you would learn first is always about as far Gaelic Vrishta na
Like,
Berla Klishta. Okay, so, okay, but then, as I went on, I started finding ones that were really important to me,
yeah.
like, ni Nirit go Kur Lahela.
Hmm.
Okay, it's Tashian Jarglafarg is the law Jarg
Hmm.
Fui Chenga. In your life that's important because what does that mean is that's power and unity.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
again that whole thing of okay, you ache to find others. It's
Yeah.
the same ache that you have when you have a rare disease is the same ache that you have when you're trying to seek other people that understand, for
Yeah.
example, the challenge of language rights in Ireland, what that means. And
Mhm.
so that was one of the Shonacles that I fell in love with. And then the other
Yeah.
one is in the book is the Erscath Ahela Awarin Nadine,
Hmm.
is we live in the shadow of each other.
Yeah. Hmm.
And, that there's more in common that we have than our differences. Talk about a life lesson, right? And that, we have an obligation to other people. I mean, Brendan says it beautifully in the book, we have a obligation to the other people that we share the earth with. And he said, I started thinking about that. I was like, it's not just the ground under your feet, it's the earth, that we
Hmm.
all share. And that's the thing that you just wind up loving about the Irish language is it roots you so deeply in the land and it roots you so deeply in the experience of being in the world. And, especially with Ireland being thought of as kind of this, agricultural, agrarian society of the past with this kind of dead language. And you're like, no, this is living, vibrant, it's talking to you today. And all of these issues that we find ourselves talking about today can be addressed by some of these Shonacles.
I find such comfort in the Shanachil as
Yeah.
anybody who has looked at my book or has my book.
You go into them absolutely in your book. Yeah.
Yeah, they give me life. But I think that's a great Shanachil for your book, Ní Neart go Cur le Chéile, because
Mhm.
Mara Dúirt too, it's all about the people who helped you along the way, and then you can
Mhm.
affect them, and all of you, are doing your part in finding more genetic giants and
Mhm.
people to feel
Right.
less alone. So gur míle maigad as a bheith canslum in you, Colleen. Curhí mé an antolas faoi leor Colleen sa chur sios and málam an leor go haar na spera. Bruntanas nálag jazz atá on.
Rantas Knowledge Jazz, Tar Oram Erlinia, Mo website in search of giants.org. Gurumila Molly, I think I said it before, you've been a big part of my life and helping me with my tourist Changa and giving me the confidence to speak and be brave with my little bit of Irish that I have.
Yeah,
So, you know,
and you really took that on board. So you're a great example.
tá sé tábhachtach a bheith cróga le do hudge Gaeilge.
When my sult war a seo agus a winship sult as an ishan seo a charge tor like do, scríb comment, subscribe, notifications, sangafoil, gur Mike Colleen.
Slán.